Hey everyone, it's time for another live look at the astrology. My name is Katie Sweetman, and this is your look at the astrology for April 22nd through 28th, 2024. I'll say that fast 3 times. So we are actually, it's hard to believe, we are rounding out April. It doesn't seem like time is flying. And I feel like I say that every month, but yet here we are. We are now officially 2 weeks after a solar eclipse, and that's one of our marquee events for April. The second marquee event was a couple days ago. We had Jupiter and Uranus conjunct, which I want to talk a little bit more about, especially because a lot of conversation came up about it, whether it was on my Instagram, whether it was on Facebook, and even with clients. But for this week, while we are, of course, wrapping up April and beginning to wrap up eclipse season, we do have a Scorpio full moon, so that will be tomorrow. And while this full moon is not an eclipse, I almost said eclipse. While this full moon is not an eclipse, it actually punctuates a lunar month that began with a solar eclipse. So that said, nice to see some familiar faces. Do say hello, and how are you feeling eclipse season? It's not to say that to expect some sort of calamity. Of course not. Eclipses mark the different chapters of our life. And all we have to do is go back and we look 9 years, because that's the half cycle, or we look 18 and a half to 19 years before to just pick up on the themes. And it's not of course, the sky is different than it was 9 years ago. And 9 years ago, we had some pretty heavy duty alignments in the sky. It's a whole other conversation for a whole other time. But 18, 19 years ago, we had, very different sky. Of course, it's always about the present moment, but it's to see where these different themes are unfolding in our life. And very curiously, this new moon that we had 2 weeks ago on April 8th, it was in Aries, and you haven't heard me here. Wow, English hard. You've heard me say that Aries is the sign of new beginnings. It's about renewal. It's about going forward into a new chapter of our life. But at the same time, we still have Mars, which is what's called the ruler of Aries season, and it's pulling the energy over to Pisces. So Pisces is the end of the zodiac. It is not new beginnings. It is wrapping up old stories. It's like we've got one foot ready to go into something new, but we got to go back. We need to reflect. We need to rest. Maybe we're feeling a little lethargic. I don't know. How are you feeling? And, on some level, to consult our intuition, to consult our dreams before moving forward. And we may find that it's going to be a very different energy as we go into May, because then Mars will go into Aries and give life to all the dreams, all the visions, all the things that have been on pause, the new beginnings that were promised by the eclipse may actually happen in May. That's the thing about an eclipse, is what's called a conjunction. I know that's a technical term, but it's one of your basic astrology terms to start to sort of put in the back of your head. A conjunction means 2 planets coming together. Every new moon, it is a conjunction of the sun, or rather the moon, and the sun. Sometimes that conjunction is an eclipse. Every 6 months, we have a solar eclipse, for example. A conjunction is a seed. And sometimes in this, even, I want to talk a little bit more about the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction that we had on April 20th. It plants a seed, and that seed sometimes needs the right moments, the right conditions, the right planet, or planets plural, to activate that seed. So before I get too far into things, I'll just sort of reintroduce myself. My name is Katie Sweetman, and I'm an astrologer and psychic medium located here in the New York City area. And every week we gather live to look at the astrology, and you hear me say it every week. The astrology is 50%. You are the other 50%. It's to be a participant. It's to sort of see where you are in this container of time and energy, and to let it reveal something to you, show you something, to work with it, co-create with it. Sometimes, as in the case with eclipses are like a force. And so that force of energy feels way bigger than us. But it's not to say that we have to sort of get dragged along by this force. It's like, okay, I know I'm in a time of new beginnings that will take me into the next 6 months. How do I keep that in the back of my mind? How do I sit with the type of new beginnings that I want in my life? And maybe with still this energy that's pulling us back to Pisces, what are my visions? What are my dreams? Pisces is the vision before the life. It is the divine thought, the divine design. Pisces, of course, every sign has many different layers to it, but Pisces can get very deep. It is a water sign. It's not the waters, the personal waters. It's not my emotions or my memories or my needs. It gets into something much bigger. It's collective. I say that if Cancer is the ocean, then Pisces is the cosmic ocean. It's the amniotic fluids that bring us into something new. It's a space of transition. And that's why I'm saying there's kind of this very interesting duality. I realize the sun has since moved on to Taurus, but we still are in that in-between state with the Pisces energy, Mars and Pisces. We're going to have Mars conjunct Neptune next week, which we'll talk about, and then we'll also have things starting to move forward into Aries. And so this week, something to keep in mind, have a lot of water energy in the sky at the moment. So where are we seeing water? What is water? Water is the last element. There are 4 elements in astrology, and fire is the first one. Earth is the second one. So Aries is a fire sign. Taurus is an earth sign. Air is Gemini, air is Aquarius, and then water. Water is the last element. It helps us to make bonds, to make connections, to have a relationship that is beyond the surface. Because if we just did relationships, if the zodiac stopped with air signs or it stopped with element air, we wouldn't have anything that really connected us to people. And so with the full moon that we're going to have tomorrow, it is in Scorpio, which is a water sign. It is the second water sign. And that's the water of intimacy, vulnerability, it's alchemy, it's transformation. Scorpio, like Aries, is ruled by Mars. So the energy of the Scorpio moon, the energy of the Scorpio full moon pulls us back once again towards Pisces. It is to be in a liminal space. Certainly it's a very mediumistic combination. It's a combination to pay attention to your dreams, to listen to those quiet moments, at night, and reflection, at meditation, and to feel, maybe hear, if you can hear, what is starting to surface. Scorpio is an intense sign, and I'm saying this as a Scorpio, so a little bit personal experience with it. Each sign of the zodiac talks about a different facet of life. And you've heard me say this before, but you are all 12 zodiac signs. You're like scratching your head. I thought I was just one. Of course, you have your sun sign, and it's one of the major signs of your astrology. I'm a Scorpio, but I have 11 other signs, and some of them have planets in them. And these are stand-ins for different parts of my life. And it's the same logic for you as well. So with Scorpio is the sign that falls opposite Taurus. Now the sun's in Taurus. So we've began Taurus season a few days ago. We have gone from the fires and the spark and the action and the renewal of Aries, and now it's time to bring it into reality. Taurus is a very tangible sign. It's an earth sign. It's about money, income, resources. I say to people, we all have different needs and sort of different values, but at the end of the day, we're all human beings, and hopefully we have a roof over our head. We need some form of currency or exchange. We need food. We need water. And Taurus really gets into the basics of that. And it's not to say that we need to go through this season really being in the basics of things, but I think, Taurus is also pleasure. It's the pleasure of life, to enjoy life, good food, nice things, soft things, comfort. If you're a Taurus, you know what I'm talking about. Happy birthday. But then there's Scorpio. Scorpio and Taurus, these are the 2 signs of matter, meaning we are in a material world. We are in a material body. I know that we can get very philosophical about that, but these are the cold, hard facts. We are in a physical world. And so Taurus and Scorpio are two signs that really govern over our physical reality, our physical world. They are money signs. They're signs of assets and resources and wealth and even power. Scorpio can talk about the power that comes with money, resource, assets, for example. Again, we can get philosophical about that, but again, those are the cold, hard facts. So with Taurus, at least I realize astrology is very northern hemisphere biased. With the sun in Taurus, we are now, getting into the fullness of spring. The flowers are blooming. Taurus is the fruit that's being born of this time. It's the fertility of life. But on the other side of the zodiac is Scorpio. When the sun is in Scorpio, we've reached the end of the life cycle. It's the end of October into the first few weeks of November. And when we get to Scorpio, the natural world is in a state of decay. I know that word's a bit heavy, but hear me out. We need the decay of life to bring in the renewal of life that we are at least experiencing from a seasonal standpoint here in the Northern Hemisphere. So these are two very powerful energies, two very powerful signs that really talk about this very root force in our material world, life and death. Scorpio, like all signs of the zodiac, it has a shadow side. It's not to pick on Scorpio, but Scorpio can get into that real, let's say, darkness of that space of decay. Because Scorpio is a water sign, it talks about intimacy and vulnerability, trust, power, control. It builds upon the relationships of Libra, and it gets into what happens to a relationship between two people behind closed doors. Whether that relationship is intimate and sexual, whether that relationship is two people with a very deep emotional bond, whether it's two people going through a crisis together. And if you've ever been through a crisis, and probably you have, you know what that feeling is like when you know that there's somebody that's 100% rock solid next to you. That's Scorpio. And when you have that type of connection with somebody, it creates a very different frame for relationships. But that said, this full moon is in a way putting in the spotlight relationships. We are coming out of a season, Aries and Libra. Libra is the sign that's opposite of Aries. We've been in a season that's very much been focused on relationships. So this week, see what the connection is to Scorpio. Does something need to decay? Does something need to end? Or is it a week for you to look at who are the people in my life? Who are the people I trust? Who are the people that have my back? Who are the people that I really have a real strong connection to? Because Scorpio is not surface, not in the least bit. The energy of the full moon, this full moon again will be on April 23rd, so tomorrow, Tuesday, at least it will be on the 24th, I believe, in Europe and in Australia and New Zealand. But this full moon highlights the energy of Mars, and Mars, again, still in Pisces. It's right next to Neptune. Mars and Neptune are going to make a conjunction, I believe, on the 29th, if I'm remembering my astrology correctly. And so there's this sort of watery, intuitive, hazy, emotional, spiritual energy that's present in all of this. So Scorpio cuts a lot of different ways, and we're all going to experience the Scorpio full moon differently. But there is an element of confrontation in Scorpio as a sign. It confronts us with life, the realities of life and death, metaphorically speaking. It's a sign that really tells us that it's time for something to end. It's even to look in your own home or sort of do that air quotes spring cleaning. What is really past its life cycle? It's also a powerful Scorpio full moon because it makes a square to Pluto. If you recall, Pluto has been in Aquarius for the past few months, and this is a relatively new thing because I know I've said this before, I'll say it again. Pluto has only been in Aquarius just the past few months and then a couple of months in 2023, but it hasn't been in Aquarius for 250 years. So we're in a new era. I know that's a big statement. It's one of those things, that's the annoying thing about astrology, is that you see it in hindsight. When you look back, you're like, oh, 2023 and 4, they were a transition point. I can see it now. But right now we're in the middle of the transition, so it's a little bit hard to see. That said, a Scorpio full moon does a couple of things when it's square Pluto. It brings to the forefront the fact that we are in a new era, Pluto in Aquarius. The full moon is actually at 4 degrees of Scorpio Taurus. The other thing is that it dials up the emotional, the psychic energy with this full moon. Pluto demands transformation. You will have to see how that's relevant in your life. Maybe you are very clear this week about what needs to transform, what has passed its sell-by date, so to speak, or maybe it's to face yourself, confront yourself. But that's the thing about Pluto. It's an evolutionary force. It's an evolutionary planet. It's a modern planet, and its role is to get us to grow and evolve by any means possible. You want relationship in your life, for example, and I mean all relationship, not just romantic relationship. Sometimes we have to really take a look within to who are the people that we are allowing into our life, where are the boundaries that need to be set, what needs to be cleaned out, for example. And maybe because Scorpio is Scorpio, it's to look at what are the themes about power and control that are coming up, and sometimes the underbelly of those words. Again, you'll have to see how this is relevant to you. So that's the full moon. I do want to go back to the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction because this is where I said astrology, it makes more sense in hindsight. The Jupiter-Uranus conjunction was on Saturday, April 20th. And Jupiter and Uranus conjunction, again, means two planets coming together in the sky. They don't come together very often. It's every 13 to 14 years. I know. Jupiter is a planet that wants to make our world bigger. It could be our internal world. It could be of the physicality of our world. It could be wanting to just open up our eyes to a bigger world, a bigger universe. Uranus wants to flip on the light switch. It wants us to really see something that maybe we haven't been seeing. Uranus has been in Taurus since 2018, 2019. Jupiter has only been in Taurus since last year. It'll leave in May, but I'll speak about that another time. So in a way, Jupiter is giving life to a story that has already been with us the last 6 years. And it's for us, and maybe this will be a little bit more clear, or at least you will refamiliarize yourself with this story when I go through each of the 12 zodiac signs. So something is brewing. Again, a conjunction is a seed. Maybe we need to get to the Taurus new moon on, I think it's the 7th of May. Maybe we need to get to Mars and Taurus on, the 9th of June. 9th of June, I think, is till July 20th. That's when Mars is in Taurus to give life to the seed. So this is where I was looking back. The last conjunction was in Pisces. This was 2010 and 2011. So I started Empowering Astrology in 2010. It started as a Twitter account first. I did it because it was like I wanted my own voice in astrology, because I was reading things that I didn't 100% philosophically agree with, but it's to put my own spin on things. Empowering Astrology was actually born when Jupiter was in Aquarius, but that's, we'll talk about that later. But anyway, so 2010 and 2011, and I don't know what was going on in your life at that point, but those were huge times in my life. On some level, it was the beginning of my astrology career and creating this and finding my voice. And the conjunction was in my 3rd, so that makes sense, finding my voice. And then I was like, okay, well, let's look back a little bit further. What was the previous conjunction to that? And that was a Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in Aquarius in February of 1997. And I don't know about you, but 1997 was a massive year in my life. And I don't know, maybe that's just a coincidence. Maybe you can see similar patterns in your life. It's massive in the way that it really definitely made my world bigger. It sort of was a seismic shift in some way. But my life is also Jupiter ruled. I'm Sagittarius rising, so it's of course going to have a little bit more of a personal impact on me. Before that, I would have been 5 years old, but Jupiter was conjunct Uranus in 1983. So maybe you were, think back to your own life. If you're old enough, what was 1983 like? Because Jupiter and Uranus were together in the sky in Sagittarius. Maybe you were born in 1983, so you were born with Jupiter and Uranus conjunct in Sagittarius. So if you go back 13, 14 years before that, I believe it's in the 1950s. But my point is that Jupiter and Uranus, by their nature, it's not 1950s, it's 1969. It was the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction of, I think it was August 1969. Again, at least a lot of things going on in the summer of 1969. I wasn't alive then, but historically speaking, also a massive time, moon landing, etc. There is something about innovation, being able to achieve something, being able to do something differently, and Uranus is a force of reinvention. It wants to break us out of anything that's holding us back, anything that's not in alignment of who we truly are. It's the coming out planet, however you want to interpret that. It's the planet that wants to get us unstuck, sometimes by any means possible. So again, this is a seed. It's not to say that we sort of looked intently at Saturday expecting something to happen. I don't know, maybe something did. But it's to see how this energy is really part of us, part of our experience. April, May, Jupiter will be in Taurus up until I think it's like the 23rd or 25th of May. I can't remember. But on some level, again, whether it's the Taurus new moon of May 7th or whether it's Mars and Taurus, really giving life to this conjunction throughout June and July, maybe that's where we're going to see a bigger shift. Whether this is a time of rapid personal development and growth and transformation, whether it's the wild card, sometimes Uranus can be the wild card. Like, oh, okay, I guess we're doing this. I think on some level, of course, it's to go with the flow. But that's why I said, sometimes astrology makes more sense in hindsight. So I was like, oh wow, those were like massive times for me. So maybe I don't know what it was like for you, but I was, I think, also 19 in February of 1997. I was in my freshman year of college, but it was a whole other, like probably 4 lifetimes ago at this point. So anyway, that's why I wanted to go back to that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, because I know that there was a lot of somebody was asking me, well, why is one astrologer saying this? And why is one astrologer saying this? And I'm like, I cannot speak for all astrologers, but I will tell you that there's just basic mechanics with this. That part, you can interpret the mechanics, but the mechanics of the mechanics. And if you are Jupiter ruled, if you are Pisces, if you're a Sag, or you're Pisces rising or Sagittarius rising, and if you are fixed signs, the 4 fixed signs, these are Taurus, Leo, Aquarius, and Scorpio, typically you're gonna feel this more. But you are all 12 signs, and so wherever Taurus stands in for your life, whatever domain of life that is, you will feel that energy, or at least a seed of energy has been planted for that space. So anyway, yes, many lifetimes ago. So that said, let's look at the astrology of this week. Let's just go, through each of the 12 zodiac signs, because I'll say that really, apart from Mercury turning direct this week on the 25th at 16 Aries, and also the Scorpio full moon, that's it, folks. It's just the moon really doing the talking this week, and the moon is really going from Libra to Capricorn by the end of the week. So we are still in a lunar month that began with an Aries solar eclipse. And I think even as I record this, the moon is at 21 degrees of Libra. So that's opposite the eclipse degree. We are now, right in the gate for the full moon. And then by the start of next week, we'll be in that last quarter moon. So the eclipses, they're still with us. They're still playing out. So we'll have more to talk about next week. Anyway, let's look at each of the 12 zodiac signs, starting with Aries. So Aries, Mars is your planet. Now, you hear me say it every week. Mars is beginning to wrap up its time in Pisces. It's a very kind of interesting place for Mars to be, because on one hand, you're ready to go. It's already been your birthday season. You're ready to start something new, but in a way you've been kind of in the past. Pisces, for some, it's a lot of soul searching, feeling like you don't have all the energy. For others, it's very spiritual. It's very maybe even solitary. Maybe you need to go on a retreat, for example. But this is the last week, pretty much a week and a half of Mars in Pisces. So, see, what are you feeling this week? Because Mars will, or certainly as you go into next week, make a conjunction to Neptune. It's to make sure you have your feet on solid ground, because sometimes Neptune can be a little overwhelming. Maybe you just need to rest. Maybe your dreams are very vivid. Maybe your intuition. Maybe you're feeling very mediumistic in this time. But it is a lot of emotional energy coming up. And maybe it's a lot of the complicated emotions that come up before a new beginning, because certainly when your planet Mars goes into Aries later next week on the 30th, then it's go time. Then it's started, that sort of power to move forward. That said, Scorpio full moon puts the spotlight in your 8th. A lot of complicated emotions are coming up again, probably very existential in nature. Who am I? Why am I here? Where am I going? It's very possible that some fears are coming up, because Scorpio can really make you confront yourself, to see things that are a little bit uncomfortable to look at within yourself. Or maybe it's to have powerful conversations, very honest conversations. And because we are coming off of eclipse season, and even with that Libra full moon that we had on March 25th, some of these conversations may have to do with relationships, because Scorpio is intimacy, vulnerability, trust, and power and control. And there may, for some of you, may need to let something go from the past, maybe let go of a relationship, maybe to make sure a relationship and connection has a deeper spiritual connection in addition to an intimate connection. Taurus. So Venus is your planet, and it's in Aries at the moment. So Venus is a little bit behind the scenes for you. I think it's the 29th that it goes into Taurus. So that's that will be an energy of renewal and new beginning for your birthday season. So yes, happy birthday, Taurus. So right now, especially if your birthday is at the moment, maybe you're doing a lot of soul searching. Maybe you're looking inward. Maybe you want a quiet birthday. Venus is picking up on eclipse energy, and the eclipse energy for you is taking place in something called your 12th. For some, it's a need to go within, to look at your spirituality, themes of faith, truth, meaning. For some of you, it's a need to get away from it all, to find a sense of peace, to find a sense of retreat. For some, it's to recuperate. For some, it's to feel in that liminality of life. It's to make sure that you are nourishing yourself with something that's very deep, as opposed to maybe something that's very tangible and material. That said, a Scorpio full moon puts relationships in the spotlight. On some level, it is about all the people that are primary in your life, whether it's an intimate relationship or a friendship, or maybe it's looking at how you interact and socialize with people. And it's on some level to make sure that relationships have a commonality. It's like the people who are in your life, you feel like they are aligned with your goals. And even if it's a romantic relationship, to make sure that you and a partner are in complete alignment towards the future. This full moon, it does play off of Pluto, which is recently in Aquarius, which is your career sign. So there's a lot of psychic energy that's coming up with this full moon. Really just sit with how you're feeling and just be patient with yourself. And if you do need to step away from something, or maybe, make sure you have some quiet time, I think it will really help you to find your center and find your grounding, because a lot of things are quite possibly moving in your life at the moment. Gemini, so Mercury is your planet, and it's still in, it's still in Aries, but it's turning direct on the 25th. So this week, it's just been 3-4 weeks for you to go. I think since the 1st of April, it's been about 3 weeks for you to take a second look at your future, the direction that you're taking your life in, maybe to look at your friends, your community, maybe to return to an old friendship, or to get back to something from the past. And this happens every 3-4 months. So this is just the natural ebb and flow of your life, Gemini. All of this was against the backdrop of eclipses, and the eclipses did really put themes around self and identity, but also friendships and community in full view in your life. That said, now that it's Taurus season, Taurus starts to bring you towards the end of your personal zodiac. You're a Gemini, but there are 11 other signs around you, and the 12th represents the end. It's a very spiritual place, it's a very intuitive place, and it prepares you for the next cycle, i.e. your birthday season. So as you are with Mercury turning direct this week, so you've had to reevaluate your future, but now how do you move forward? What's your next step? Where are you taking action? A lot of this energy might be career related, because the Mercury turning direct does point back towards your 10th, Pisces. Maybe you've needed to reflect on a career issue, maybe the role that you play in the world, the title after your name, the duties and responsibilities. That said, Gemini, this is just generally in this year a time that's putting a lot of pressure on you to take the next step up in your life, to take on more duties and responsibilities in your life. That said, really look towards health this week, because the Scorpio Full Moon is putting the spotlight on health, wellness, how you take care of your body, the day-to-day runnings of your life. And just notice when Scorpio is part of the health story, it's to look at the connection between the body and the mind. Maybe what you're feeling actually has a somatic connection. I don't know, not a doctor. But that said, use this time to make some really practical decisions about your health and wellness, how you're taking care of your body, and how you're taking care of your life. Cancer. So the moon is your planet, and we just had that eclipse just 2 weeks ago in something called your career sign. And even though 2 weeks ago seems like it's in the rearview mirror, that eclipse is going to be with you for the next 6 months, if not longer. It says that over the next 6 months, there's something about your career, whether it's the title after your name, whether you are making a change in your professional life, whether you need to have a new beginning. Again, everybody is going to be different. The moon right now, and the moon is your planet, it's spending the week. First, it's in Libra, which is the sign of home and family for you. Then it's going to move up through your 5th, which is where we find the Scorpio full moon tomorrow. What is the 5th? Well, the 5th is actually really the 5th. The 5th in this full moon really puts you in the spotlight. It says you need to take yourself and take your talents seriously. Whatever it is, maybe you need to share your wisdom and knowledge, publish a book, do a talk. Maybe it's to put your ideas out there in the world. But whatever is going on in your career, there is something about this full moon that really gets into philosophy, maybe a philosophical difference in your career, or maybe a need to really stand up for your convictions. Don't forget, Cancer, there's one you in this world, and there's only one you in all 13.8 billion years. So this full moon is saying, don't forget that. Not to say that you are the center of the universe, but to express yourself, to prioritize your talents and gifts and abilities, for example. That said, with the moon, then the moon will get into Capricorn by the end of the weekend, going into next week. So you may see, whether it's at the start of this week, whether it's at the end of this week, going into next Monday, what this eclipse is starting to lay out for you. Leo. So how are you doing, Leo? We just had that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in your 10th. And I know that, when I talk to Leos and they sort of scratch their heads a little bit, because they're like, but Katie, you've been saying the last 5-6 years that there's something that's, changing in my professional life, and it's not changing. Everybody's different. And it doesn't mean that this energy over the last 5-6 years, courtesy of Taurus, courtesy of Uranus and Taurus, has meant that you've needed to completely change your career. Maybe your direction in life is different. Maybe your professional life, even though it's air quotes the same, looks nothing like it did 5 years ago. But on some level, and I wanted to say this again, because Jupiter with Uranus this week and even into next week and the beginning of May, there's a seed of something that wants to take shape into your life. And what is that seed? Is it a new career? Is it a new beginning in your career? Is it something about your public life, your professional life? It's for you to see how this is relevant in your life. But that said, the Scorpio full moon puts home and family in the spotlight. Maybe you've got a decision to make about your household, your living situation. Are you moving? Where is home and who is home? When you get into that Taurus new moon, like I said, pay attention to that seed that's been planted in your professional life, because the Taurus new moon 2 weeks from now, on May 7th, then brings life to whatever Jupiter and Uranus planted that seed. So it's just a little bit of an interesting time to be a Leo or Leo rising. We have Pluto. The energy of the full moon is even pulling on Pluto recently in your 7th sign for relationships. So you got stuff going on in the major corners of your life. It may be a lot, but maybe it's exactly what you need in order to make some necessary or even overdue changes. Virgo. So Mercury is your planet, and we've been talking about this. So Mercury has been retrograde in Aries, and Aries is something called your 8th. Since I think it's it's March is when Mercury went into Aries, it's been a lot of emotional stuff, because for you, the 8th, to kind of put it into plain speak, it's like you're a Virgo, but there's 11 other signs around you. And one of those signs, your 8th, happens to be Aries, stands in for the part of life where you need to go into your psyche, you need to look at yourself, you need to face yourself. If you've ever been to therapy, you've been to the 8th room. So to have Mercury in this space since last month, it really brings in a lot of deep emotional material. Maybe you've been doing a lot of inner work. Maybe you've been having some intense or perhaps even vulnerable or even difficult conversations with people in your life. There's a lot of focus on relationships in your astrology at the moment, so this might bring other people into this very intimate and private space. Through this process, it's a need to either transform, let go of the past, let people in, or to really have some sort of shift that can hopefully allow for positive and healthy relationships. For some, it is about money, but that said, this full moon that we are going to have tomorrow puts into the spotlight something called your 3rd sign. It's a bit of a busy time for you. Busy time for you, Virgo. Maybe you've got a lot of conversations to have, places to go, errands to do. Maybe there's a big focus on your neighborhood. Maybe there's events. But it's kind of interesting because there's a lot of busyness in your astrology this week, but it's also, and it's very social, but at the same time it's getting into these deeper emotional points. So it's for you to see how this is relevant to your life, and maybe you've been putting off a conversation, and maybe Mercury now direct will give you the power to have that conversation. Libra. So Venus is your planet, and it's still in Aries. So there's just a lot of focus right now on relationships. Whether this is literally about a relationship or people coming into your life or needing to connect and interact and socialize with people. Maybe you're in a partnership and there's just a lot of stuff going on in the partner's life. So you need to step up and negotiate whatever's going on. Of course, it's going to be different for every Libra. Keep in mind, Libra, that you are just 2 weeks after a solar eclipse. The solar eclipse put a big focus on relationship into the next 6 months. It is a time of new beginnings, whether that is a new beginning in an existing partnership or new beginning to come between two people that haven't even come together. That said, with this Scorpio full moon, Scorpio puts the spotlight on money, whether it's money and income, whether it's what you own, what you spend, what you value. Maybe this full moon is highlighting self-worth and value, and maybe within the context of relationships, like what is my value to my partner, or what is my value to another person? It doesn't have to necessarily be romantic. I just love how the spam is happening right now. Yep, just please report these people with, the ancestors do not have messages for you. But anyway, I digress, Libra. Libra, maybe it is about self-worth and value within a relationship at the moment. But it's just to see, maybe it's two people needing to look at money and assets, make investments for the future. Taurus season is also taxes, debts, finance, assets, wealth. Maybe, of course, it's been tax season here in the United States. Maybe it's planning for the future, coming up with a plan for a monetary plan for the future, 401k, estates, will planning. I know that doesn't sound very glamorous, but the 8th, which is where the Taurus sun is at the moment, is that level of money and assets. It's the stuff that we use to prepare for the future, and even the stuff that we pass on to other people. That said, it is a major time in your life, Libra, and it's just going to continue to be a bit busy for the time being. Scorpio, you are in the spotlight this week. So you have a Scorpio full moon on April 23rd. So if you were born within, let's say, the first 4 or 5 days of Scorpio, probably around November 1st or late October or the very beginning of November, you are in the spotlight. Doesn't mean that, the rest of Scorpio, of course, can be in the spotlight. To have the sun, have the full moon on you, it says that this may be a dynamic week, especially if your birthday is near that 4-degree mark of Scorpio. So, like I said, the first few days of Scorpio, around the late October into the very beginning of November. That said, Taurus season is about other people. It's a time to socialize. It's a time to connect. It's a time to focus on relationship and partnership, and in all different domains. And I said this last week, and it's worth saying this again. Don't forget that you've had this planet in your relationship sign since 2018, 2019. So that's 5-6 years at this point. And while the time is beginning to come to an end, is to look at the fruit of this time. How have relationships changed in the last 5-6 years? Whether that's literal, like, you were in a certain relationship before, you were in a different relationship now, whether that means you have a very different relationship with relationship. Maybe you have let people in. Maybe you have really set some hard boundaries against other people from the past. All I know is that this Uranian energy has demanded some sort of evolution and change. The Jupiter-Uranus conjunction of a few days ago, it does plant a seed, and it's for us to see how this seed begins to take shape and form in May and even into June when Mars, your planet, gets into Taurus. Speaking of which, Mars, it's still in Pisces. This is the last week for it to be in Pisces. So this continues to be a very creative time for you. Don't worry, creativity comes in a lot of different forms. Sometimes when people hear the word creativity, they think art. But certainly if you are musically or artistically inclined, continue to use this time. But what is art? What is creativity? It is to take the spirit of something inside of us, something that is only us. We cannot be duplicated, and to put it into something. It's to give life to something. So this full moon, maybe it is about a creative project. Maybe it is about something that you really want to share, or you really want to share some sort of talent and gifts and abilities with people. This might be a bit of a bigger conversation, but you've had Neptune in your 5th sign, Pisces, which is where Mars is at the moment, since 2011 and 2012. How have you changed over the last 12 years? I mean, of course, how have we all changed? But this time is beginning to wrap up. We'll talk about this next year, because that's when Neptune begins to leave Pisces. But it's just something that's in the back of my mind at the moment. But that said, it could be a week of turning points. It could be a week of major events. It could be a week where you are just in the spotlight. So use that in the way that you need to. Sagittarius. So Sagittarius, I know I said this before, and I'll say it again. The second half of the year is going to be very different for you. It's not to say that it's going to go right down the middle, but you will see once your planet Jupiter goes into Gemini, I think it's like the 25th of May, give or take. It's a very different time, because Gemini is, number one, a relationship sign for you. It's number two, it's a air quotes cardinal sign for you. In English, that means it's a shift of seasons. It's a shift of seasons that initiates you into the necessity for relationship connection. It will be a very social time for you. Maybe it will be a time of new relationships. Keeping in mind, this sort of capitalizes on the fact that Saturn is sitting in the sign of home and family. It is about other people in your life. Building connection, building relationships, building a home, building family, whatever form that takes. That said, Jupiter isn't in Gemini yet. We've got one more month left of Jupiter in Taurus, and Jupiter is the major hand on your personal astrology clock. Jupiter in Taurus has been nearly a year to focus on your health, your wellness, your physical body, the day-to-day runnings of your life. It is to, in a way, take advantage of all the major changes in health and wellness and the major runnings of your life, the day-to-day runnings of your life since 2018 and 2019. Maybe, I don't know, how did you feel that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction on Saturday? Maybe it was very quiet, but it's a very dynamic energy. That's why I said in my introduction, you had Jupiter conjunct Uranus in 2010, 2011. You had it previously in February of 1997. And even in 1983, if you're old enough, it's to really look at these times of awakenings, reinventions, a very dynamic time, and perhaps even rapid personal growth. So it could be a year of rapid personal growth. We will see. That said, Scorpio, the full moon is in your 12th sign of endings. It's the end of a cycle. Something needs to release. Something needs to let go. It's just the ebb and flow of life. And also Scorpio for you is a spiritual sign. So I would use this time, and especially with all the Mars and the Neptune, it's a very intuitive, meditate, reflect, go within, especially as you come up to the second half of the year. Like, what are you feeling? What do you feel is on the horizon? What are your dreams telling you? What's your intuition telling you? This full moon is a good time to let something go, an attachment, whether it's emotional, whether it's physical, so that you can prepare for this next chapter. Capricorn. So Saturn is your planet. You hear me say that every week. So Saturn right now there's a lot of focus on Pisces, and even with Mars in Pisces, it's for you to look at this year and even next year as a time for you to focus on education. Whether that's literally education, taking more classes, educating yourself, reading everything that you can get your hands on, refining your curiosity, in life, or maybe it's voice. Maybe you need to really take a serious look at how you speak, how you listen, how you communicate, how you show up, how you follow through. You're like, I'm a Capricorn, of course. Pisces is a very interesting energy because it's non-material, and Saturn by its nature, Saturn's your ruling planet, Capricorn, is a material sign. So it's a little bit of an interesting vibe, and honestly, this vibe will take you into the beginning of 2026. Also, don't forget, we are 2 weeks past a solar eclipse. This was a big deal solar eclipse in your sign of home and family. There may be big changes in the household. Maybe it's a move, maybe it's the start of a family, maybe it's, family need more of your attention over the next 6 months, and especially with Mars going into Aries on April 30th, so throughout May and into the beginning of June, you will begin to see what this solar eclipse what sort of seeds it's planted. That said, Scorpio is your 11th sign. Friendships are in the spotlight, whether it's literally your social circle and the people that are your friends, or whether it's this sort of bigger idea of like, who do I want as friends? Who is in my social circle? Maybe it's focusing on groups, your commitments within a group, or sort of your dedication within your community. Scorpio, and especially with the Mars in Pisces with Saturn, it's a bit of a busy full moon for you. It's a social full moon, but it's for you to really maybe have some serious conversations, or maybe to have a conversation with a friend, or to maybe build something in your community. And Scorpio is also your sign of the future. And so when you look ahead at your life, or maybe you look ahead at the year, what do you see? It is to hope and dream for something different. And maybe this full moon, especially with Mars and Saturn and with you in Pisces, it's to really make some concrete decisions now that Mercury is turning direct on April 25th. Aquarius. So Saturn is your planet. You hear me say that every week. And Saturn is still in Pisces, and it'll be in Pisces until February of 2026. So major time in your life to continue to focus on money, income, material stability, and security, including value and worth, including self-worth. Saturn, your planet, we've got some time, but at the end of June, it will turn retrograde. So there will be something for you at the end of June into the beginning of July that really talks about a structural point in the story about money and income that has been unfolding. That said, we have a Scorpio full moon this week, and this Scorpio full moon is putting the spotlight on your career. Now, this comes in a lot of different forms. So for some of you, it literally is your career. You need to make a change in your professional life. You need to make a change in your professional life that aligns with your values. Maybe it's a change in your professional life that talks about, I need to earn more money. I need to make sure I have more material stability in my life's material security. Maybe it's a full moon that's putting you in the spotlight in your external world. That external world is your public profile, your public reputation. Maybe you are getting recognized for something. Maybe you are getting a promotion. You'll have to get back to me. Maybe you're making more money. I hope. And that's the thing about Mars as a career planet now that it's next to Neptune. It's when Neptune's part of the money story, this is how I say it. I don't care if they give you a corner office, and I don't care if they pay you $1 million to be there. First, it has to feed your soul. Maybe that's relevant to you, maybe that's not relevant to you, but there definitely is some deeper existential questions about value and worth and your place in the world that may be coming up for you, Aquarius. This is a powerful full moon. It talks about a sort of change and a shift of seasons. Taurus for you is your sign of home and family. There is a push and pull that's happening between your internal life, your home life, and your external life, your professional life, your public life. Do keep in mind that as of the past 2 months, you've had Pluto in Aquarius for almost the first time in your life. I say almost because we had a little dip of this last year. So do not forget, this is a major time in your life. We are only at the beginning of a story, and on some levels, your life is starting, the great sort of gears of your life are starting to shift and to take you in a different direction. And so see how this full moon aligns with that much bigger story that's beginning to take shape and take form in your life right now. Finally, Pisces. So Pisces, Jupiter is your planet, and it's got about a month or so left, I guess a month before it leaves and it goes into Gemini. So that will be another story. And for you, Gemini is your sign of home and family, roots and foundation. So you may find that the second half of the year is a bit different for you. Maybe right now it's a bit busy, maybe you got things to do, maybe you're taking classes, maybe you're on the go, maybe you're on the move. Right now, Jupiter is in something called your thirds in Taurus. Taurus is what's called your third sign. So this has been a year of really focusing on your voice, how you speak, how you listen, and how you learn. A few days ago, we had Jupiter conjunct Uranus. Remember, conjunction just means two planets coming together in the sky. And this only happens every 14 years. But honestly, this is they haven't been together in Taurus, I believe, in your lifetime. I think it was the 40s. And I don't know, maybe you were born in the 40s. There's a seed that's been planted that connects to a much bigger story that has been playing out over the last 5-6 years about opening up to something. People hearing you, making sure that the words that are coming out of your mouth are truly your own. Maybe you're a writer, maybe it's a manuscript. You're gonna have to see how this is relevant in your life. But it is quite possibly a time in your life that is dynamic. It's the beginning of rapid personal growth and transformation. Hopefully that's what you want, or that's the case. But Uranus is just trying to get you unstuck. And especially when Jupiter changing signs in May, and even Mars getting into Taurus at the end of April into May, maybe you will find that May is really trying to get you unstuck, if you feel stuck, of course. That said, Scorpio full moon. Scorpio is something called your ninth sign. The ninth sign is it's not a tangible space because it talks about belief, truth, meaning. Like, what's true to you? Like, what are your conviction? What's your faith? And so that, of course, is very subjective. It's going to mean different things to different Pisces. So this is a full moon for you to get very clear about what do you believe in? What do you stand for? What do you think is true? For some of you, it is to take what you know and to share it, to be an authority. You have Saturn in your sign at the moment. The bar is set higher for you this year. You have to be the adult. I'm sure you are, Pisces, but there's some sort of next rung on the bar that's set up for you right now. And so as you say things this week, or maybe even next week, they have to have your authority, your wisdom, your knowledge behind them. Maybe for some of you, you're teaching something, maybe you're writing a book, maybe you're doing a talk, and this is the time that's really trying to get your voice out into the world. So that is your look at the astrology of this week, April 22nd through 28th, 2024. So I appreciate each and every one of you. I know I see some familiar faces. Some of you are my clients. Some of you apparently are scammers. That's just the people like to come on and try to get you to get an ancestor reading or something. I don't know. They're just trying to take your money. But anyway, I will see you all next week. You can follow me online at empoweringastrology.com. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Spotify, I'm on YouTube. You can book a consultation with me. You can sign up for my newsletter, and I will see you all next week. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.